I am somewhat worried about knowing too much when it comes to this screening test. And I do want to balance any anxiety that comes from it with a desire for clarity and hope that the information that I get will be useful, not just to myself, but to my family members, might provide me with a peace of mind. There might be early detection, who knows, of something. Hopefully there's nothing, but if there is, early detection is something that is obviously pragmatically important. And honestly, if it does lend itself to knowing something that might be helpful for my brothers or any other family member, I think it would be money well spent. Welcome to the health-themed season of It's Never About Money. And in this episode, I'm doing something a little different and honestly a little confronting. I've booked a full health screening with Health Screen, and I'll be recording parts of the process, the consultation, and sharing my reflections along the way with you all. This isn't your standard GP visit. It's a comprehensive medical screen, the Platinum Health Exam, offered through a private clinic and supported by former Health Minister Greg Hunt. It's championed by David and Monica Badov, a father-daughter team who've made this kind of proactive health assessment more accessible. The screening includes advanced blood work, imaging, and a genetic panel covering over 160 cancer and cardiac-related genes. I'll be honest, it's a little frightening and I've had some reservations. There's a part of me that worries about what I'll find. I tend to fixate, and sometimes more information doesn't necessarily always feel like reassurance. It kind of feels like adding fuel to my anxiety. But I've also carried a quiet belief shaped by family history that I might not live a long life. And that belief has influenced how I've lived, sometimes a little too casually when it comes to the future. So this is my attempt to challenge that notion, to see what's actually going on beneath the surface. Maybe it'll give me peace of mind. Maybe it'll prompt some change. Either way, I'd rather know and share it with you all. So in this episode, you'll hear from me at different points, during the exam, in my consultation, and afterwards, as I reflect on what it all means, not just medically, but personally. Let's get into it. So as I said earlier, I've had this quiet belief that I probably won't live that long. Maybe it's been based upon fear and trying to protect myself from the inevitability. I've had this kind of idea or notion in me because I've just seen so many of the people in my life not live to the statistical life expectancy that I use in the projections in my private practice. You know, you've got my dad who passed at 59 years of age, my grandmother who had ovarian cancer as well, and then on my mum's side, been a whole history of strokes, heart disease, high blood pressure, dementia, and so therefore it really did inform the way it is that I deal with the present. And I'm a lot more present focused as a result of that sort of subconscious idea. So in thinking about going and getting a health screen done and thinking about my personal longevity more forensically, I've been sort of questioning the idea of nature versus nurture. Is it my biology that indicates my sort of length of life, or is it actually my environment? And if it's a combination of both, or if it's that my environment actually does impact my biology to some extent, how can I control for my environment to give myself the greatest opportunity to not just live a long life, but to live a really healthy life? Because again, going through what I did, seeing my dad go through the significant illness that he did, was really transformative for me. The health screen exam will cost me $5,900. So whilst there's different levels of it, I've gone for the most comprehensive one. And whilst that's not accessible to all, there are lower levels that you can access. I was offered a 20% discount for that, but I've decided that I will donate that to charity because I didn't ever want to use It's Never About Money as a way of receiving any benefits financially or otherwise. Well, I do receive benefits from learning, but that is a conflict, but it's a conflict I'm willing to take. So I'm going to donate that 20% to KUFA, an organization that the It's Never About Money podcast is linked with, and I'm really proud of that. So I'll be doing a genetic test of 160 cancer and cardiac related genes. It's probably the test that I'm most worried about, obviously, given my family history. I also have taken a halo test, which is less comprehensive but important. And that was developed and championed by Heather Holmes. And it showed me that my actual personalized life expectancy might be more positive than I expected, because a lot of the questions that it asked and the way that I answered it ended up lending itself to my environment and what I'm doing from an exercise point of view, from a nutrition point of view, from a mental well-being point of view, is actually improving my life expectancy. Also, I would imagine that inbuilt in the future life expectancy is the fact that there are going to be medical advances as well. So we're likely to live longer than the previous generation just from that point of view alone. So what am I afraid of, and what do I hope to gain from this screening? Well, I've got these sort of tendencies, which is really positive in some ways. It's why I have the podcast, that I can tend to hyperfixate on certain things and want to know a lot and be really super curious. I am somewhat worried about knowing too much when it comes to this screening test. And I do want to balance any anxiety that comes from it with a desire for clarity, and hope that the information that I get will be useful, not just to myself, but to my family members, might provide me with a peace of mind. There might be early detection, who knows, of something. Hopefully there's nothing, but if there is, early detection is something that is obviously pragmatically important. And honestly, if it does lend itself to knowing something that might be helpful for my brothers or any other family member, I think it would be money well spent and worth the worry, I suppose. So why do we say health is our top value but rarely invest in it? It's just so interesting to me that, yes, 5,900 is inexpensive, proposition. But to be able to come out with all the information that I might, to be able to detect issues in advance, to be able to dictate what my environment looks like to impact my biology, I think is super, super valuable. And we often spend money on things like holidays, experiences, which are really, really important. But how important is a holiday if you're not able to go and get on that plane and do it in the future? So we're often also squirreling away money for our retirement. Well, how important is our retirement if we're not healthy when we're actually in it, or we don't have the full length of that next phase in our life? So I think we often avoid proactive health checks in much the same way that we avoid estate planning, putting together a will, because we don't want to really think about it. We fear it. There's a cost associated with it, and there's often an avoidance. I do think with it, we live in a society where there's a lot of distractions, and there are a lot of ways to avoid things that are very important. It reminds me of the country Bhutan, who, as part of their spiritual philosophy, they often tend to focus on the end of their life. So they meditate to the end of their life and they think about their death ritually, daily. And it makes them actually, ironically, it actually makes them more grateful for their now. And rather than avoid the end and feel like they're dragged and kicking and screaming over a cliff, they kind of take the scenic route. They're able to see everything along the way. And I think it's important to focus on those things sometimes that we want to avoid for that exact reason. It allows us to enjoy our life more now. And so I hope that doing this for me is in fact a form of exposure therapy. So this is a real investment for me in my well-being and my future. I really hope, as I said before, that I have been quite casual with my future. The idea that future Joe is future Joe's problem. This has informed so many different parts of my life. Perhaps relationships. It has informed how much I spend in the now, because if I'm not sure that I'm going to live a long life, well, why not spend more now on things that give me joy and utility? But that has been to the compromise of future Joe. And I wonder if I can change my relationship with how I feel about my longevity whether that will change my behavioral patterns when it comes to my own finances. Because I often laugh with my family that we might teach clients to budget, but I'm not always the greatest on my own personal budget. And that might be the same for many of us in various professions, right? So I'm really hoping that this changes the way I plan and spend and think about my current situation, and also give some sort of weight to this notion of what Joe looks like in 10 years' time, 20 years' time, and hopefully beyond. So as I continue through this episode, I just want you to think about the sort of preconceived ideas you might have about your own personal longevity. Are there any sort of subconscious narratives or stories running around in your mind? Is there something about your health that you've been putting off? Do you actually see investing in your well-being as important? Is it important to talk about your well-being? So I'm currently going through the patient information form and about informed consent to receive services provided by HealthScreen. And it talks about the safety and risks. As with all screening studies, it says MRI and other investigations can miss some disease processes, especially when they are small. And also with these screening tests, there can include false positive test results when a doctor sees something that looks like a cancer or disease, but is not clear. So it's a little stressful, to be honest, to think about that sort of situation. Look, it seems a bit all formal now, and I'm going to sign it away. I'm hoping for a really good outcome, and I'm really looking forward to the benefits of sharing this process with you all. Good morning, and it is Friday morning. I am getting myself prepared for my full test, my health screen test, and I'm kind of excited by it, but I'm also a little bit tired. I've been fasting last night, and I'm kind of really looking forward to having something to eat. So I'm already, it's about 11 a.m. or so, and I'm already kind of hungry. So the test obviously requires a full fast, so I'm assuming blood tests are coming up, and I'm not particularly a great fan of blood tests or needles, to be honest, but we'll keep that on the lowdown just between us. So I've got all the camera set up. I've got everything ready to kind of chronicle and take footage of an audio of my full examination today, which I'm looking forward to getting into, to be honest. It's been a little while in the planning, so we'll see how it goes, and I'll just keep taking snippets throughout the day. G'day.
Hello, Joe. I'm 𝐷𝐸𝒃. I'm the Medical Director of HealthScreen. It's a pleasure to have you.
Thanks for having me today. Yeah,
please come in, have a seat and make yourself comfortable there. I wanted to give you a little bit of an overview what's going to happen today in terms of your preventative health assessment.
Yeah.
And also just to provide some insights and background to why we actually do this.
Yeah.
So as you know, you're having a comprehensive health screen assessment. And the reason why we started this is because if you think about this, there's very few of us who unfortunately die of old age. It's usually cancer, heart disease and stroke.
Mm-hmm.
So the assessments are really designed to find these conditions early on and institute changes which hopefully will change your life trajectory.
Yeah. So do you find that there are some people, what sort of age demographic tends to come in here? Is it a little too late? What's the sweet spot in terms of when to come in?
Yeah, look, I think it's a very good question. So we have quite a demographic from people who are in their 70s to people who are in their 30s, but it's generally someone who is very interested in preventative medicine and proactive about their health and longevity, and really someone who wants to not only have improved lifespan, but also improved and longer health span. So it's not just about longevity, it's about the quality of life and your health. But it's quite a demographic. So the way this will work, I'm going to ask you a few questions and do a medical consultations, which will talk about your personal health, your family history, previous medical issues, medications, previous medical conditions, but with particular emphasis on preventative medicine and longevity. And then, of course, you're going to have a number of investigations, and these include biomarkers, blood tests, ECG, advanced screening with MRI, calcium score with CT scan, which assesses the calcification of your arteries in the heart, which is a really sensitive test for assessing your cardiac health.
To what extent are there, like, is every single test come with preventative measures that can prevent the situation occurring, or are there just some scenarios where, unfortunately, there is the result without much that can be done?
Yeah, absolutely. Once again, a very, very good question. I can see you've done this before. So
not quite.
Everything that we do has a scientific reason for it. Every test that we do, we're looking for a particular outcome, not only finding the pathology earlier, but also introducing an intervention which will improve that. So, I mean, I guess the best analogy I can give you, if someone's got a high blood pressure, you need antihypertensives, blood pressure tablets.
Yes.
If you've got a high cholesterol, you need intervention to reduce your cholesterol, reduce your risk of cardiac disease. So it's the same concept here, except the sort of pathology, earlier things that we're looking for are not usually diagnosed by your general practitioner or routine investigations. So you need advanced screening, such as, for instance, MRI screening, looking for pancreatic cancer, which is a silent killer, because pancreatic cancer often presents late. By that stage, it's usually stage 4. And unfortunately, as with most cancers, once it's spread to, say, stage 4, there's very little you can do.
Yes.
So the best preventative thing, if we do find something, is finding it very early on as stage 1, and then you can have interventions such as surgery, for instance. For instance, with pancreatic cancer, stage 4 life expectancy, 5-year life expectancy is about 5%.
Yes.
Whereas if you find it earlier, your life expectancy is 95 plus.
Wow, okay.
So it's a very different perspective with a lot of these cancers as well.
So there is a difference, obviously, between going and seeing your GP with a regular checkup versus what I'm doing right now. It's not, the GPs are well-intentioned and doing the best that they can, but it's usually to deal with an issue, a symptom, or something of that nature. So the way that you've set it up is really about screening and preventative.
Yeah. A lot of medicine in Australia is reactive.
Yes.
So when you feel unwell, you see your general practitioner. So there's unfortunately not a lot of proactive or preventative medicine, which is currently practiced in Australia. So what we do is really another level of preventative medicine, particularly with things like targeted MRI screening, calcium scores, those sort of things. Not really offered by the general practitioners.
And the way that the government is assisting in being able to provide this to be more accessible, it's not something, obviously I'm privately funding this myself. Is there a bit of room to move on that front?
Yeah, look, again, a very, very good question. So it's a little bit like this. How much is your life worth to you? So you go and have your service on your car, you pay $500 to $1,000 and annually. So it's a similar concept. You're servicing yourself. Unfortunately, currently under Medicare funding, and you've got to appreciate the restrictions that the Medicare has in terms of finance. There's only a couple of programs in terms of surveillance that are funded. One of those is cervical cancer screening. There's screening for bowel cancer with fecal occult blood tests. And there's also recently for heavy smokers introduced lung cancer screening with CT scans. So there's a limited number of options that are currently funded by the government. And I'm sure the government would love to fund more screening, because in a way, being proactive actually not only improves your specific life longevity and your health, but also overall costs for the government. But currently in Australia, and probably not just in Australia, globally, there's very few of these sort of preventative health programs which are underway.
Great. Well, I mean, my last question is really based upon, if we go through and I get a whole bunch of an understanding of where I am at from a physical health perspective, are there support services that are attached to various areas that might require some intervention?
Yeah, absolutely. So we really have two arms to this, Joe. One is health screen diagnostics. That is when we look for specific problems with your health, we identify what the problems are, and then we might need specific treatment. Say, for instance, again, if your cholesterol's high, you go on a tablet. If we find a brain aneurysm, we might need to address this with referral to a neurosurgeon. If we find an early cancer, then you might need a surgical referral. So that's the diagnostics part, where we look at your biomarkers, we look at your specific pathology with the screening. The other arm that we have is really health screen longevity. And we also have a number of health and longevity improving treatments, such as hyperbaric oxygen, red light photobiomodulation, total body cryotherapy, intravenous infusions, and which are designed really to not only improve your, as I said, your lifespan, but also improve your health in general as well. So it's not just sort of one of those things where we just say, look, we've done the test, you're fine. There needs to be a plan.
Absolutely.
And there needs to be ongoing supervision, if you wish that, under the medical guidance.
Okay, well, that's amazing. I was a little nervous, obviously. I wasn't sure what's going to happen, but I'm clear on what's going to happen. I'm ready to go.
Yeah, I'm sure this is going to be a very enjoyable experience for you. So let's start.
Well, what a day, guys. It was a very interesting day. I've had that many tests, and I've still got a few more tests to do at home. There's one that I think requires a little time. There's the stool test, which is to do with the microbiome, that's still to be done. But I had a urine analysis. I had my bloods taken. I had a CT scan on my chest, which was to determine calcium score of build-up in my heart. I had an inline body composition scan. I had an MRI, which was, wow, it was interesting. I've never been in an MRI, obviously, before. I must have done a CT scan, because the MRI was 40 minutes of taking scans of different areas of my body. And actually they asked me what I'd like to watch. I chose the NBA to tune out while I was in there. Some people find it claustrophobic. I found it quite okay. And I had an ultrasound. They were kind of testing my carotid arteries and my thyroids around my neck region, which was interesting as well. So really what's left is that I've booked an appointment for a couple of weeks to actually talk to the doctor about what the results are, and it was a reasonably lengthy day. But I don't know. I have a sense and a feeling that of a little bit of calm, and I don't know. Whenever you've done something that you've been kind of, I don't know, subliminally or subconsciously a little concerned about or would like to know a little bit more, and you do it, it gives you that sense of relief, even though you didn't realize it was a problem before. And I don't think it was a major problem, but it just going out of there and knowing that I've kind of done a really comprehensive examination of my health, even though I don't know the outcome, makes me feel like if they do pick up something, well, at least I know, and that's probably giving me more avenues to make change if I need to. It also kind of the sort of tests that they were doing and kind of lent itself to making me feel that those are the areas that we need to be most focused on. So the fact that there was so much related to the heart, I mean, it goes without saying, right? But I think any preventative measures put in place to ensure that your heart health is great is obviously a really important thing. I found the actual whole process to be pretty seamless, to be honest. And there's something cool about going into a doctor and not having a problem, but actually just wanting to go in there to actually be more about preventative remedies. And that's really the focus of that particular practice. I want to state that by no means am I advocating that you go to Health Screen and see them. I'm not about necessarily recommending any group per se. I just say from my perspective, it was a really valuable experience, and I feel it's a worthwhile experience for those who are really interested in their health and want to know more, and potentially those that are also getting to an age where, let's face it, problems start to surface here and there, particularly if there's a family history of it. So I don't make any money from Health Screen. It's completely independent, but it was super interesting, and I thought it was very well done. And I'm glad there is such a service that is available in Australia as well, because like David said in the conversation that I had with him, a lot of the way our health system works and runs is on the basis of there is a problem, go and fix it, rather than it being preventative. So overall, really positive day. I'm looking forward to this being shared with everyone, and let's see what happens with the results. Well, everyone, I'm super excited to say that I got through the health screen relatively unscathed. I haven't got my results yet, but I was examined head to toe, and it was quite an exhausting. One of the things I really wanted to do was to sit down and really kind of have a chat about all the things that happened, how I felt, and I thought, who better than to speak to my podcast producer, Abigail Gatling, or Abby, as I like to call her. And we had an amazing conversation about all the things that transpired and still yet to really determine every outcome of the tests that I took, but definitely got enough information to have a meaningful discussion with Abby post the event.
You finished all your health screen. Tell me what happened. I saw you go into the thing. What actually happened when you were in there?
Yeah, it was a good experience, I'm going to say, but like you don't know what you're actually getting yourself into a little bit. There was a heap of tests already, heap. It just went from one thing to the other, and it seemed to be pretty organized. So I went from ultrasounds to MRIs to blood tests to swab tests to in-body scanners where you hold onto like these magnetic things and it kind of scans your body and tells you your body composition. Then the skin check by the doc and all the usual obs that they do. And yeah, it was a full day. It was actually quite by the end of it, I was a little tired just because I'd obviously fasted the day before and I hadn't had a lot to eat and I'd just been going from one thing to the other. But I was actually happy that I did it. And I thought, chronicling it along the way was a was a cool part of it to sort of get everyone else in on, what I'm doing, how it works and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah. Were you nervous before you went in? While you're waiting out there?
Uh, I wasn't super nervous. I think I was more nervous about actually booking the thing in to begin with, like whether I do it or I don't. And I think that was because more around, okay, what if the results are no good? What if my worst fears are, actually true coming up? But all's well that ends well. It turns out that the lifestyle that I lead is actually helping a lot. And the doc was super happy with pretty much most of the results. And I can run through, I'm a pretty open book as well. Like, so it took 2 weeks between getting tested and then the doctor speaking to me today about a whole bunch of things. We went through, a heap of stuff from heart and blood vessels. And he said, heart and arteries are looking great. No signs of heart disease. They do a calcium score test and I had 0 on that, which was great. And the good cholesterol is good at good levels. He did say, however, that my bad cholesterol is on the higher end of the average, or perhaps a little bit more. And he said, I'm nitpicking now. It could be genetic, it could be, what you eat and so on and so forth. And I said, okay, so when you say what you eat, and he's like, well, how much red meat do you eat? And I'm like, well, I do have a lot, but not as much as I used to. And he said, well, maybe, you can do a bit of a change on some of that and then come back in and do the blood test again and see if it makes any difference. But I said to him, is it necessary? And he said, well, to be honest, because everything else is so good, I'm kind of nitpicking and it's not a problem. So I was happy with that response. I did ask him at the end as well, if you were to tell me like whether to keep doing what I'm doing, do something more or do something less, which one would it be? And he said, just keep doing what you're doing. It's working. So that was good. He did say, I did look at the review and it had like a little cyst on my liver and some other little cyst on my, it said renal and my kidney. And it reminded me of my dad's kidney issue. So I kind of stressed out about that. And he said, no, look, it's normal. It looks pretty normal and there's no issues and there's no reason to be concerned. It's just, it's just people have that sort of stuff. And I'm like, okay, cool. So that was fine. So, and then even hormone health, like, we have Cherry Cashel, on as one of the episodes and, looking at my sort of hormone health, it was good, like thyroid and the old prostate was looking good too. So everything was fine on that front. So the only thing I'm waiting for, or they're waiting for, is I'm doing like a test. I won't tell you what I mail in the in snail mail, but I'm gonna have to mail something in the snail mail, and they're gonna test it, and then it's gonna come back with my microbiome. Why are you laughing, Abby? I just can't say it. I can't say it. It's poo mail. So
Fair enough.
yeah. And then the other one is I did a swab test, and now we're gonna do have a look at all the sort of potential genetic markers for cancer and heart, and that'll come through a little bit later as well. So pretty much done most of it, looking like it's a good outcome, and just being aware of that cholesterol thing, which actually runs in my family a little bit. So yeah, I'm really happy I did it, to be honest. I feel calmer or something about it. Yeah.
Oh, really? So, you mentioned before, like your worst fears and your brain running away with you ahead of time. Like what was that exactly?
Yeah, it was more around just potentially going through something like my dad went through, and then, my family being impacted and all that again. I just didn't want to see that for myself or anyone else in my family. And that was part of it. And also when you think about your health and perhaps you have this preconceived idea that you might not live to a ripe old age like others because there's not longevity in your family, you don't realize that there might not be longevity in your family because there's actual environmental things that they were doing that you're not doing. But by you realize that. So I'm realizing that through a few things, like doing the Halo test and then doing this very comprehensive one, that the environment has a lot to do. Of course, genes has a big role to play, but your environment plays a hell of a big role. And And because of experiences in my family and so on, just maybe the way I am by nature, I've been doing certain things and researching myself into prevention of problems. And it seems to have, touch wood. I am young, 44, so still that's pretty young. So, but it seems to be doing well for me, and I'm happy about that. And I'm also happy about being able to report this information to my brothers as well, about the, even the cholesterol thing as well. And then whatever happens with the genetic testing, because that might help them too. So, yeah.
So you've got a bit of peace of mind now?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it wasn't like I was, fretting before, but when you feel like perhaps you don't know, you could have a shorter longevity, you actually start to change the way you behave around money and around planning for things in the future. Because there's kind of this mindset with me of like, planning for the future, what's the point? Let's enjoy ourselves right now to an extent. I'm not terrible, but I'm also not what you would call the most diligent when it comes to, I suppose, looking after the future Joe as much as looking after the present Joe. It's probably weighted way more to the present Joe, which is cool, and I'm enjoying it. But I think, with these tests and, with a bit of hope that I have not just a long life, but like a healthy life and get more out of it later, I need to maybe think about being more discerning with how I spend my money and so on.
That's really interesting to me as a financial advisor.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you can go two ways as a financial advisor. You can go, well, absolutely. I want to save an absolute mint, and this is for the next 6 generations. I don't have any kids, mind you, that probably influences it as well. But you could go the other way, which is I see my clients, they have various fortunes. Some don't last to enjoy it. Some are with it, they don't enjoy it. Which ones are enjoying it and have amassed the most that they can, try to replicate what they're doing, yeah. So I'm in probably the court of trying to enjoy it as much as I possibly can, which I think is still okay. It just has to be moderated at times. And I think knowing that having some sort of acuity around the fact that you've got this like length of time that you're going to need to support yourself and potentially others who are in your life. Yeah, it's helpful.
What did your brothers think about you doing this?
I mean, James was like awesome, because James was like, this is great. I think this is really good. He's very much like me around health and being a little bit more discerning around the choices that we make. So he was really all over it. And he's looking to want to do it himself, which is great, right? You don't have to go the full kit and caboodle like I did either. You can do a stripped down version, which will do all the major things that were most important to check out, right? And then there's Mark, and Mark was like, oh, good, you'll tell me. Said to me, you'll tell me what I need to know about me. I said, you're trying to get out of paying, mate. Yeah, no, it was well received by all. And even my mum, she was, sometimes she's a bit of a nervous Nelly, but she wasn't as nervous about it. She said, oh, that's a good idea. I think you're smart in doing that. So that was good too. Yeah.
All right, everybody. Well, this is the last sort of hurrah now for the health season. I originally started the health season because I felt that it was important to address some of the feelings I was having with respect to my own health. And as I've said before in this episode, the impact of my father's illness on my mindset. We started off in July last year, and I've now gone through researching and having conversations with many different health specialists, including neuroscience experts, hormone specialists, exercise physiologists, a whole bunch, sleep scientists, a whole bunch of health specialists have really helped me understand the space, made me a little bit more aware. And certainly I think the final piece of the jigsaw puzzle was going and doing a health assessment on myself and going through that rigorous examination, which not only gave me information at that particular juncture, but also allowed me to follow up on a number of different issues that were important to address. So one of the things that really stressed me out the most, I think, which is ironic, was that my GRIM age test, and it's again a pertinent name, GRIM age test, it came out as telling me that despite my feeling that I would probably come in at being biologically younger than my chronological age, because of how much I concentrate on my health, it actually came out that it was the opposite, that I was actually 48 years old instead of 44 years old, which I supposed to actually am. But really, when I look at it, I realize that that's as a result of the fact that stress is disproportionately affecting my cells. And whilst it was disappointing to see that, it wasn't surprising to me. And it made me reflect on a number of things key things that may be stressing me. My occupation is not an easy one. Being a financial advisor, it comes with a heavy emotional load, but it also comes with a great deal of meaning. So it wasn't a situation where I said, I need to remove this altogether out of my life, but I needed to modify things in a way that could suit me. And given I had the time to be able to do so, I created I assessed what the main problems were, and it was the incessant pace and energy that I brought to the business was also, which is positive, it was also causing me a fair bit of burnout and stress. And so what I did was midweek resets, effectively partnership protected days where James and I wouldn't book any client appointments, and where we would focus on professional development, personal development, health-related outcomes, changing the pace of that particular day. And that has been a fantastic initiative. On top of that, I have walked to work. I don't live too far away, and walk back from work. And also had taken out a small part of my day in the middle of the day, about half an hour to 45 minutes, to do a gym session. And what I noticed on my Oura Ring was where it calculates stress via HRV, which is heart rate variability. My heart rate variability started to increase, which was a positive sign that my parasympathetic system was actually improving, and I was becoming less stressed. And the cumulative stress that I could see was becoming very, very high before all of these interventions had started to drop. So there was tangible results that I could see as a result of some of the initiatives that I was taking. So that has been an amazing change. And not only that it's a change on myself, but it's a change for my brother, who, sometimes we look at each other and it's almost like a badge of honor how tired we are. But, that change was really meaningful, I think. So the other aspect was getting a full assessment of my my gut, and seeing that my microbiome, there was gut bacteria that actually needed to be modified slightly. I had quite a lot of inflammation as well. And so what I recognized was that the way that I was eating was for caloric restriction, and making sure that I was at a healthy weight range, and maybe more aesthetic than it was in actually feeding my gut the right thing, so that I could reduce inflammation, improve my cognitive function, and potentially reduce my stress there and then. So what I'm also noticing is all of these things kind of interplay with each other, and they are all kind of interconnected. And so I went on a course of prebiotics. I also engaged with an app called Nerva being an app that was created by Dr. Simone Peters, who has done groundbreaking work in the area of hypnosis and the gut-brain connection. So a lot of the time, people with symptoms of an irritable bowel or other things are often quite stressed. Often the brain overreacts to signals in the gut and compounds problems. And by actually doing this hypnosis, this meditation is another way of putting it, on a daily basis over a 6-week period, it has actually had a profound impact on what I can eat, how I can eat. So as an example, I could not tolerate garlic before. I'd get a really strong, painful reaction in my stomach. I can eat a little bit of garlic now and I don't have the same issues. So these things are working. And I've been super privileged to have had this podcast as a medium to be able to learn myself, and to obviously impart my knowledge to all of you who are listening. And I appreciate the community that is listening. And I would appreciate any feedback or commentary on socials around changes that you've made that have made a meaningful difference based upon any of the episodes that we've produced. I'd like to thank everyone that's been involved, including Abby, Beck, the team at 𝐶𝐞𝐚𝐥𝐿. I call you 𝐶𝐞𝐚𝐥𝐿. It's actually 𝐶𝐶𝐚𝐥𝐿. But I'd like to thank them for all the work that they've done over this season. It's been a pretty long one. I've been pretty excited about it as well. And so that's why there's probably been more episodes than ever before. It's also been the first purely themed season, which I'm going to continue to run with, which I've quite enjoyed. And finally, again, the main thing that I set out to do was to change my mindset. And I can categorically say that I have no reason to suggest that I'm unhealthy and that I should spend up all my money now before I cark it early. I'm very excited to say that I've learnt a lot, I've improved a lot, and I hope all of you have come in on the journey and enjoyed it as much as I have. As a result of going through the health screen process, Health Screen have been so kind as to offer the It's Never About Money community a very special discount of 10% off the screening costs associated with their offering. And so It's Never About Money has no financial connection, does not receive anything from any other provider, and is obviously funded by my and our broader financial planning practice. So just wanted to state that if you'd like to do that because you were, I suppose, empowered by my journey, then please do so. We'll leave in the show notes the details of Health Screen. And again, happy to hear from you about what you've done and how it's changed your life. If you have resonated in any way with the sentiments of this podcast, we would be delighted to direct you to our website, www.itsneveraboutmoney.com.au, for more free resources and education aimed at improving your capacity to make sound financial decisions for the benefit of your family. We wish you every success, however you define it.